It's important to know the difference between summary and analysis. Some teachers may ask you to summarize a text, whereas others may ask you to analyze. Summary and analysis are two different skill sets, and they are important to master because they are both often utilized in essays. First, let's talk about summary. When writing a summary, put the main points of a text into your own words. A summary does not express personal opinions or interpretations. It is meant to show the essential information of a text. First, read the entire text, noting the key points and main ideas. Highlight and underline if necessary. Use features of the text such as title, abstract, headings, chapters, and section headings to help you determine what the major ideas are. Ask who, what, where, when, and why questions to help determine the most important details to include in your summary. In the summary, you're going to want to state the main idea of the text in your own words. Make sure to attribute the author and/or text throughout the summary so the reader can tell the difference between your ideas and the author's ideas. You will want to avoid or limit quotes. That is because a summary is supposed to put a text into your own words as opposed to having quotes doing the explaining for you. When analyzing a text, you're going to need to focus on the thesis, the support, and any other claims that are provided. Looking at individual aspects of the essay are useful in uncovering weaknesses and strengths in the essay. Analysis is different from summary because summary you are trying to put an argument or a text into your own words, whereas analysis you're trying to interpret the text. You're trying to look for strengths, you're trying to look for weaknesses. You may be looking into the rhetorical devices that are being utilized for the argument. First, what is the essay attempting to communicate? What is the author's primary claim or proposal? How credible is the writer or the publication? With this, you can look at how credible is the writer, what is their history with this subject, or where did the publication come from? When was the essay published? Is it still relevant? Sometimes if a source is older, then it may become irrelevant or it may have been refuted by somebody else. So time frame is always important. What support is provided? What types of evidence is being used? Is the writer using rhetoric? Are they using facts? Are they using statistics? And how is that support useful or effective? Are there any contradictions in the essay? Are there any logical fallacies? In analysis, you're going to want to point these types of things out. What is not said that should be? In analysis, you can look at what the writer has said and try and figure out what is missing from the argument. When analyzing an argumentative essay, it is common to analyze the rhetorical techniques that make the argument persuasive. The most commonly analyzed rhetorical techniques are logos, pathos, and ethos. These techniques are tools for analyzing essays, but keep in mind, they're not the only methods of analysis. So first we have pathos as a rhetorical technique. Pathos is a persuasive technique that is used to influence a person through their emotions. So one example that many people know about are the SPCA commercials, where it has an image of a sad pet or a dog with the sad music in the background, and at the end asks them to donate. In that example, it is appealing to the viewer's emotions as opposed to giving them some kind of statistic. When a writer is trying to appeal to your emotions and influence you through your emotions, they are utilizing pathos. Secondly, we have ethos. Ethos influences a reader using credibility and expertise. Ethos and credibility imply that the information presented is legitimate. It is common for commercials to get the opinions of doctors to endorse a product. How many times in your life have you heard someone say, "Trust me, I'm a doctor," and you believe it just because that doctor may have some kind of credibility or prestige? Ethos is an important concept that ties into reading, writing, and analyzing. Every single text that is created is trying to create a sense of prestige or credibility. And you may want to consider, how is the writer trying to establish credibility? Are they talking about the institution that they are from, or are they using many other sources? Ultimately, are they using that credibility as a crutch to not have to provide facts? Lastly, we have logos. Logos uses logical reasoning and information such as statistics to persuade. Logos is a strong method of persuasion because an argument should mostly be based on logical reasoning and facts for support. So an example would be a statistic like a student surveyed 100 students asking them if they enjoy pizza. 95 students said that they enjoy pizza with a 95% rate of favorability. The students concluded that pizza is a well-liked food. So using statistics and facts is probably the most persuasive form of rhetoric, but you can still consider, is the logic sound? Are there any logical fallacies? Or perhaps there were errors in the methodology or the way that the data was taken down. You should also consider this in your own writing, because you should think about how you can present facts and information to persuade the reader as well. In the following slide, I'm going to provide a model for summary and analysis based off of an article titled Social and Economic Returns to College Education in the United States by Michael Hout. On this slide, I have models of both summary and analysis. Feel free to pause this and read the whole paragraphs, but what I'm going to do is point out certain areas that tie into the summary and analysis techniques that were spoken about earlier. So to begin on the summary, I pointed out what the main argument or what the main point of the article was. I also made sure to include any important information. For example, I said, Hout proposes that most universities have selected students with high abilities and test scores, but students who are less expected to succeed benefit more from higher education. So that seemed as though it was an important detail. And note how I also attributed the author saying additionally Hout proposes, as opposed to just saying that that was what I said. On the right, we have an example of analysis. In the analysis, I also say what the main argument is, saying Hout argues that education is beneficial for an individual and society. Then I say this article was recently published by a reputable college, the University of California, Berkeley. So I'm evaluating the relevancy, saying when it was published, so it's recent, which makes it a relevant text. And I'm also considering how the place that it was published adds to the credibility. So that's an evaluative task. From there I say there are still flaws in the argument that are being made. And I point out that it's not sufficient that Hout presents a correlation between education and a positive trait. So for me, in doing that, I was attempting to point out a logical flaw that I saw in his argument, and that is my form of analysis interpreting the text. After that, I pointed out that education was not clearly defined. It seems as though this is also pointing out a logical fallacy, because in the argument, he is saying that education overall benefits a student, but education is not clearly defined, so that may not be a strong argument. So that is also another interpretation that goes into analyzing the text. Hopefully these examples are able to give you some more ideas about summary and analysis. They are two different tasks, but they're both essential to good writing. Just keep in mind, with summary you're attempting to put the important parts of a text into your own words, and with analysis you are focusing on the thesis, the support, and other claims provided for interpretation and evaluation. Thank you for watching this resource on Academic Voice. If you have any further questions,
feel free to make an appointment at the Writing Center. You can also find more writing resources by clicking on the link below.